Hi and welcome to SCW here on YouTube.com. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now. Leave any comments in the comment section. Please like and share the video as well. Hell in a Cell 2020 is in the books and complete. What an eventful show. We've got some new champions. We had a heel turn. We did have some filler as well, but most importantly, we had some amazing Hell in a Cell matches. After the last couple of years in the main event, we've had false finishes, no contests, leaving there feeling very lackluster or angry, particularly after last year with the Seth and the Fiend Hell in a Cell match. This year, I walk away with happiness from the Hell in a Cell, from the gimmick match, and feel that we had three completely different Hell in a Cell matches, and I think all of them personally delivered going back looking through the show. So let's go things from the start and let's go through from beginning to end, starting with the kickoff. And very disappointingly, the Roll-Up Championship was involved on the kickoff. R-Truth are rolling up Drew Gulak for the win. This was sort of almost treated like a handicap match if you want to go with that sort of angle. R-Truth and Little Jimmy. Drew Gulak almost treating like Little Jimmy as a friend, having him sitting on his knee, high fives, high tens, then giving him a boot away for R-Truth to lose his temper and go completely mad. As I say, R-Truth picking up the victory with a roll-up, Ben being chased off by Tozawa and the Lucha House Party. They must be glad they moved over from SmackDown to Raw to be in this picture rather than the actual Tag Team Championship picture. They were chased through past the kickoff panel where Drew Gulak came over and said that R-Truth's childhood hero is John Cena. Well, John Cena sucks. Personally, Drew, you deserve better, but this match actually sucked. But we'll go on to some more positive things, and I'll tell you, if you missed the kickoff, you didn't miss much, but I'll tell you what, if you missed the start of Hell in a Cell, you need to go back and watch it. We kicked off with arguably the best story in WWE. Of course, I'm talking about Roman Reigns and Jey Uso competing for the Universal Championship inside Hell in a Cell in an I Quit match. The I Quit stipulation is just so beautifully added for this storyline throughout this, because if you remember back to Clash of Champions, Jey Uso lost by Jimmy throwing the towel in. He refused to give up. He refused to lose. He refused to acknowledge Roman Reigns as the tribal chief. So to put this in this match, it actually in fact took 15 minutes into the pay-per-view for this match to start. But once it got started, they were given half an hour to just give this beautiful story from a start, middle and end. Of course, Jey Uso got a nice flurry in the beginning, the match going in and around the cell, but then it got to the point where Roman hit a spear or two, and Jey Uso from that point was in a lot of trouble. He was selling his ribs from this point onwards throughout the entirety of the match. And what I love is the selling in this match was so beautiful, because when Jey Uso managed to get back into it, Roman was selling as well after a couple of Uso splashes, and also a leather strap being brought into the ring, Roman Reigns being whipped to the point that it just looks so painful. Of course, the role was reversed with Jey being whipped as well, but then came a magic moment as well where we saw Jey Uso actually choke out Roman Reigns. Under normal circumstances, Jey Uso would have been your Universal Champion, but of course, the loser of this match is the one that says the words "I quit." So when you're knocked out, it actually means nothing, because you have to say "I quit." So you need the guy conscious to say those two magic words. Roman Reigns at this point then managed to get things to a very dark place. He got back on top. He made sure that this guillotine is seen as a recognisable finisher and something that could put people away. Jey Uso was knocked out, refused to lose here once again. He was then put towards the corner of the turnbuckle. Steel steps were put there, and Roman Reigns did the drive-by into the steps into Jey Uso. This was where it almost looked like it was going to a step too far. WWE officials couldn't take it anymore. They all come into the ring trying to get Roman Reigns away from Jey Uso. Roman was having none of it. The steps were brought into the ring. Roman Reigns then picking the stairs up, looking like he is literally pretty much going to murder Jey Uso at this point, just ramming those stairs into his head. Jimmy comes into the cell, literally cradling hold of Jey Uso, and just, what are you doing? What have you become? You have changed, and just really, the heartstrings are really going at this point, to the point that Roman actually stops what he's doing. He sits to the ground. He visibly cries of what he's going on. And you see them actually say, "We can fix this. We can fix the family." And Jimmy and Roman actually hold hands. But what you realise is that Roman, he's not actually crying because of the fact of what he's done. He's crying because of what he's about to do. All the smack talk that's been used through the match of saying, you know, you're going to wish you'd tapped out, you're going to wish you'd quit, wish you'd never been put in this situation. Well, Roman really put this in a very uncomfortable place and injured Jimmy Uso, who's not even able to compete, was put in a guillotine, where actually at this point Jay revived and actually came up, but not able to aid his twin in this situation, which led to Jay screaming the words, "I quit," and Roman Reigns winning the match. A nice little touch with this as well. The ref wasn't going around with the microphone every 2 minutes trying to put it in their face to see if they quit or not. And of course, it's probably arguably harder in a normal arena environment to hear the words "I quit," but because we're in the Thunderdome, this worked really well as it was a nice touch. So we see at this point here that the Usos lost the match. It was explained by Paul Heyman before the match that if there was a loss here for Jey Uso, that he would be doing the bidding of the tribal chief. He is effectively a part of a group and will do what he is told going forward if he wants to remain in the family, which just makes this even more beautiful to see where the storyline will go from here. We see both Usos deflated in the ring, head in hands, you know, face in knees, where Roman Reigns goes out of the ring, goes up to the top of the rampway, and of course, Uffa and Sika, the Wild Samoans, are waiting on the top there, and not to be angry at Roman Reigns, but to acknowledge him as head of the table, with Paul Heyman from afar, looking disturbed at Roman Reigns' actions, but looking on as well. And it looks, I mean, so beautifully the way the storyline has been done. It was, for me, it was epic. I think that this was perfectly done, one of the matches of the year, and we have a progression in storyline as well as match, and it's going to be exciting to see where this next goes from here. And it feels like that within time we are going to get that heel Roman Reigns stable with the Usos involved. I look forward to seeing how that will play out over the next number of weeks and months. There was some filler though in this pay-per-view, and next was a prime example of it. After we had such an epic match here, this was followed by a match that unfortunately just couldn't live up to the hype. Elias against Jeff Hardy. It went on for a few minutes, but eventually Elias picking up the victory with a DQ. He went to grab the guitar, but Jeff Hardy got it off of him and hit Elias with the guitar for that DQ. It was retribution, arguably, for Elias's return on Raw a couple of weeks ago. But this one is just baby steps into the feud. I'm guessing it will progress further than what it has done here at Hell in a Cell. Expected to go and rolling into Survivor Series season. Next we had Otis against The Miz. Of course, Otis had to defend his money in the bank after the Law and Otis segment this past week, which questionable to say the least. But Otis going into the match explained how he was angry, how The Miz, you know, has pretty much had Mandy Rose taken to Raw. He's had Tucker taken away from him, and that he was going to, you know, get his revenge this evening at Hell in a Cell. But it didn't quite work out that way. It looked like that John Morrison, who had been trying to get involved for most of the match, decided that he was going to actually hit Otis with the briefcase, and this was caught by the referee, and the referee sent him to the backstage area. And it felt like that Tucker never really did so much, he felt, to stop John Morrison throughout the match. Tucker was waiting in the wings with the briefcase. When the moment came right, and the referee's back was turned and The Miz was over in the cornerway, he actually hit Otis with the briefcase, turning on Otis. So we've got that heel dynamic, that heel turn, and The Miz looking in shock, picking up the 1, 2, 3 and becoming the new Mr. Money in the Bank. Personally, for me, I was surprised by this because, first off, I think if you were going to do the Heavy Machinery breakup, I think they should have done it in the summer. It seems a bit strange to do it now that Tucker is on Raw. Maybe they're going to go for a whole new gimmick change in direction with Tucker, but it's hard to know where they're going to have the payoff match with this. Perhaps a Raw versus SmackDown match at Survivor Series could be a possibility. Will Otis remain or look to try and continue to go for the Money in the Bank after this, or will he just drop it all together? And what will happen with The Miz? I mean, now will Miz try and cash in at some point against, well, as we say, perhaps the champion, which we will determine later in this video? Or will Miz just have no plans for the Money in the Bank for a number of months, just like arguably WWE had no plans for Otis with that briefcase either? I would say just one side note on this, that I do believe Otis was the wrong choice to have the briefcase to begin with. It just felt for me a comedy character would not seem believable in the main event area. So I kind of feel that in one way this is a good move. The Miz has been there before, although the Miz's booking in recent times hasn't been so strong. I think that it is a nice reward for him, and I still don't expect him to actually win the WWE Championship, but I do think there are worse people that could be holding the briefcase than The Miz. Hopefully this is done now and we can move on in storyline terms for The Miz and Morrison to do something else. In the meantime, with Otis and Tucker, maybe they'll find a way to resolve their issues later down the line, but they are on separate shows, which of course is a bit confusing. Tucker did go on to explain his actions backstage as well, just briefly before we move on, saying that he was the workhorse of the tag team and that Otis can't even tie his shoelaces without him. Them two did brawl into the streets afterwards, so it'll be interesting to see where it will go from here, but at the same time, I do think it could be a bit of a struggle now that the draft has played its part, unless we're going to undermine the draft now and put people on the wrong shows, which we have done with Otis already as El Gran Gordo this past week on Raw. Next, we're going back to Hell in a Cell, and we had the year-long feud here of Bayley and Sasha Banks together in Hell in a Cell. When you say the year-long feud, that's the year-long feud of this time. It's been arguably built for half a decade. The fact that Sasha's never beaten Bayley in a one-on-one environment, when you look back to NXT days with their Iron Woman match, with their match at, of course, TakeOver Brooklyn. You go back to Hell in a Cell as well, and with Hell in a Cell, Sasha Banks has been in every single one of the women's Hell in a Cell matches in WWE and has not won any of them. Go to the storyline that you have here as well for the SmackDown Women's Championship. You know, Bayley's been the champion for 380 days. It's the one belt Sasha hasn't won and will make her a Grand Slam champion. All these ingredients in one match just really hypes it up. And we got a traditional Hell in a Cell match, which I loved here. That we had the creativeness with the weapons being used, going in and around the ring. Both women just giving out and dishing out brutality. Lots of near-fall encounters. Just when you think the match can't go any further, always one of them managed to kick out a two. There must have been about 50 meteoras from Sasha Banks in this match, but it didn't take anything away. I thoroughly enjoyed it. We got towards the finish, though, of the match, and Sasha Banks does become your new SmackDown Women's Champion by putting the bank statement on Bayley, but also using the steel chair, almost similar to the method with the chair being around the neck, just like we got on SmackDown, to the point where, of course, Bayley then signed the contract. This was the way she gave up her championship. So I like the continuity in it. I like the fact that Sasha Banks is now a Grand Slam champion. It's the right time. It feels the right moment to make the change. The storyline doesn't necessarily have to finish. I'm sure Bayley will have something to say about this and will want revenge, so I expect this to continue on from here, but it's the right way to continue the feud of having the now former champion going back for the championship and having Sasha Banks as the champion. So for me, this here was as good as the first match, but in a completely different way, because both of these matches, these Hell in a Cell matches, were tip-top outstanding. I just loved both of them. So yeah, I recommend if you haven't seen them, you need to go and check them out. One thing, though, you probably could skip through was we had a member of Retribution against a member of the Hurt Business, a challenge put out on the kickoff by Mustafa Ali, from, of course, the leader of Retribution. MVP, of course, taking them up on that. Lashley is the one that's going to represent the Hurt Business. They said any one of them that could take him on. Perhaps the one in the stupid-looking mask, which, of course, was Slapjack. They said if that everyone would actually keep away from the ringside, there's the two superstars in the ring. Lashley would also put the United States Championship on offer in this match. We did get Lashley versus Slapjack. He was the one that was going in on behalf of Retribution, and as expected, he lost within 3 minutes. I feel this was a bit of a missed opportunity, personally. I mean, Retribution, we know they're dead and buried in the water. Let's not kid ourselves here. Their booking has been absolutely atrocious. I would have liked Ali to have been the one to have gone there. I just felt that it never felt believable that Slapjack had a chance. He tapped out within 3 minutes, and then, of course, Retribution tried to come in, but not getting anywhere over Lashley, even on a 4-in-1 environment. The rest of the Hurt Business come down to ringside, and Retribution just flee. It's really not a good look for Retribution. Last but not least, then we had the WWE Championship match. And what was really interesting about this for me was Drew McIntyre against Randy Orton in Hell in a Cell. You would say, yeah, we've had 3 Hell in a Cell matches in one night. This, for me, was the one I was looking forward to least. Maybe with the build, the storytelling, maybe the fact it was the 3rd Hell in a Cell match of the night. But they found a way to make this unique once again, because the match started outside of the cell. Randy Orton, for the 2nd time this year, dressed up as a cameraman coming in there. Almost as well done in the same sort of way of how we attack the legends as well. So there's continuity in there. So I will give WWE a bit of praise for that. A bit of action going on then outside the cell before they went inside the cell. Almost a standard Hell in a Cell match that we had at this point. Then going forth for the middle chunk of the match. It was kind of similar to what we saw with Bayley and Sasha, but perhaps not the same intensity in my opinion. But this went up a gear once again because Randy Orton wasn't getting the upper hand he wanted inside the cell after so long. So we decided to get the pliers and cut open the cell, almost similar to what Drew McIntyre did on Raw to get inside the cell to close the show. Randy Orton did it to get out of the cell. The brawl continued outside of the Hell in a Cell for a little way, going up the rampway, and then Randy Orton decided to climb up the Hell in a Cell. Drew McIntyre decided to follow him. It makes a cool visual, doesn't it? Let's be fair. Both of them on top of the cell, beating on each other. But of course, Randy Orton had a pipe hidden up the top of the cell. Arguably, you could say, why was that hidden up the top of the cell? Maybe it was his plan to go up there all along. Seems a bit strange, though, and long-winded, when you could have had it just hidden in the cell. I'm sure Randy didn't really think that through, but let's go through the little details, shall we? Let's move on from that. We did have a situation where Randy then tries climbing down the cell. Drew McIntyre goes to follow. Of course, they're beating on the side of the cage, and of course, Drew McIntyre goes flying off the Hell in a Cell into the announcer's table. A nice little spot, and I felt that this was done almost like Bad Blood 97, the first ever Hell in a Cell. I feel this was a tribute to that moment because Drew McIntyre looks at Shawn Michaels as a mentor, and it looks almost identical. So I believe that's probably the direction of where they were going with that spot. It was a game changer for the match as well because Drew McIntyre sold it so well, internally bleeding from the mouth as well. The match managed to go back inside the Hell in a Cell. They exchanged once again, but Drew McIntyre went for the Claymore finisher, missed it, went straight into an RKO, and we have a brand new WWE champion, Randy Orton, your 14-time World Heavyweight Champion in WWE. Surprised by the finish, I had a feeling that Miz was going to cash in after that, especially when I saw Drew McIntyre in such a state. I just thought if Drew retains, Miz might actually walk away as your champion at the end of the show. I just wasn't ruling it out because I thought the WWE have done such a mess with the Money in the Bank in recent years, let alone just this year, that I thought maybe they might just look at it and think, well, we can have Miz become the champion for a couple of weeks and just find a way of a shocking moment to give people on pay-per-view. But that wasn't to happen, wasn't to take place. But ironically, the last time Miz cashed in and won his Money in the Bank and won the WWE Championship, Randy Orton was the champion. So, this is kind of like 2010 all over again. But at the same time, I think that it certainly is interesting. And I'm interested to see where it's going to be going forward. Surely Drew McIntyre will want to get a rematch, but at the same time, I don't want to see them have another match on pay-per-view. Drew versus Randy, it would be the 4th time on pay-per-view this year, 4 pay-per-views out of 5. I'm not so sure I want it, but at the same time, Survivor Series, the 30th anniversary, for The Undertaker, of course, but I look at it and say to myself that they usually sometimes in the old years, that was a place that feuds usually finished, so again, I wouldn't be so surprised, but it'll be interesting to see how they're going to play the dynamic out. They need to freshen this main event area up, and they've got the superstars to do it on Raw. So I have to see, hopefully on Raw tonight, we will see some different directions for these guys. Maybe Drew McIntyre is thrown off in a different feud, which has to take him away from the championship right now, and Randy Orton can focus on something different as we go through next now, building to Survivor Series. But all in all, I thought the cell matches delivered. I thought there was some filler in between. I think the heel turn is interesting, and certainly getting the Money in the Bank off of Otis was probably a good thing at this point. I think it would be damaging if Otis had cashed it in and lost, and I just think it'd be even more damaging if he cashed it in and won, because I just don't think people would have seen that as believable. So the Miz having it, I do think is the right move going forward. To give this pay-per-view out of 10 as marks, I'm going to go for a high 7.5, potentially just under an 8, mainly for the Hell in a Cell matches for me, because I think they all delivered on the show. Particularly the first 2 were my favourites of them, but as I say, all of them offered something different, and I think that's what made this quite exciting. The rest of the show, for me, was a little bit filler in places, but I think that it all did what it needed to do, and it gave us that breather in between to then go back to those cell matches with excitement and that pacing and the way that storytelling was done. And all in all, I think that this was a very solid show. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm interested to know what you thought of Hell in a Cell. Did you enjoy the cell matches? Did you enjoy the title changes? What are your feelings going forward? Do you think that we're going to get some new directions, or are we going to get some rematches building into Survivor Series? Also with The Undertaker, what role do you think he'll have with that celebration of the 30th year anniversary for The Undertaker? Rumours suggesting right now in the rumour mill he's not competing. I'm very happy about that, especially after he's supposedly announced the retirement. But it'll be nice to see an appearance from The Undertaker at this 30th anniversary and to see what they're going to do to build towards that. But to make sure as well to keep an eye on the channel, the Q&A is up as well, so now please go and check that out. Ask SCW, get answering your questions in the wrestling community. This Week in Wrestling is up as well, and of course, if you're an Impact Wrestling fan, Bound for Glory, the review is up for you right now. But that's all from me anyway. Thank you for watching. Keep an eye out as well. NXT Halloween Havoc predictions will be coming in the next 24 hours. I'll see you then. Take care. Have yourselves a great day. You have been watching SCW here on YouTube.